Right now, I'm going to introduce your digital portfolio that you'll be creating in this class for your final exam in the form of a Google website. In Canvas, I'm going to go into the modules, and once that opens, I'm going to scroll down to where it says Digital Portfolio because that is your final exam. This video will show you both the digital portfolio introduction and some sample portfolios and the portfolio review that you will do so that you have a better understanding of what is required to do on this final portfolio. The digital portfolio is a culmination of all of the work you do in this class, and if you take multiple art classes, you will be adding to it as you create more work. It's highly recommended that you make a separate page for each class to keep one class together. In other words, each class should be on its own page so that the portfolio is organized. If the instructor cannot find your work because it's unorganized, you'll score lower on the final exam. You can see the learning target is right here. Students will showcase their mastery of course outcomes through a digital portfolio created using Google Sites. So you can see we're going to be using Google Sites to create your portfolio. Throughout the semester, you will be building your own unique digital portfolio to showcase your art. This includes artwork, techniques, vocabulary, and analysis. The analysis is a reflection or self-evaluation of what you do using art vocabulary to describe what you did. If you look at the modules section, you can see that you'll be submitting this throughout the semester each time we complete a project or unit. So if I scroll through the modules, you can see right here, there is a composition check-in, and then this is where you'll actually be submitting that URL for your digital website for the first assignment. If we scroll down a little farther, you can see that in the value unit, there is also a check-in and then also the submission that you'll be doing. This will happen every time we have an assignment. So whether you're in Drawing 1 or another class, there'll always be a submission where you're going to be submitting your digital website for evaluation for that unit, and then we'll have a final partner reflection that we're going to do on exam day. So if I scroll down here, you can actually see there is a collaborative review, and this is the partner review I was talking about on exam day. On the very next page, you will look at or review other students' websites so you can see what is good or bad about things that have been submitted in the past. So here you can see there's a bunch of portfolios that you can review. It even shows you what could be possibly good or bad in the website. You'll be actually completing this digital portfolio review in a few moments. Notice there's also a link to the outcomes and department standards that you'll have to be using for this as well. This should help you score really well on the website. You can also include materials or other projects from other classes. You just want to make sure that it's very clear where your page is for this class and that it's labeled clearly. So for example, on this example here, you can see that I'm on the other artwork page, but the class that I'm talking about, and this happens to be Drawing 1, you can see that there's a specific page just for drawing, and then there's pages for other things. You need to be aware that if your instructor cannot find your work, you will score lower on the final website submission. So if you're in modules and you take a look at a unit, so for example, this is the composition unit, you can actually find the composition drawing submission. If you click on that, you'll actually be able to see a checklist of things that you should have in your website submission. In that checklist, you can see there are requirements for the project linked to this page, as well as how to take 2D photographs and what should be also included in the web page. You will need a resource photo present on the page, even if you are drawing from life in the classroom. You will need to show your sketches and a game plan. You will also need to describe who your resource artist is and how that person's work related to what you created and possibly how yours was unique. There will normally be a list of resource artists for you to compare to right on the page, as well as a resource artist list that you can reference if none of the ones on the list seem like they fit your work. You can see you will also need process photos of your work, which can be taken at the end of class each day. Please be aware that the photos should be oriented correctly and taken straight on and not in perspective. Realize there will need to be a final version of your completed project on the website as well. Lastly, you should be including a self-reflection in each unit web page, which should include any art terminology from the unit. Notice the vocabulary worksheet here. You will be filling this out in each unit, and those terms should be used on the page for that unit. In addition, the analysis of your work should include both the Nicolet Art Department standards and the course outcomes in the analysis reflection you create in each unit. There should be a description of how you fulfilled them in the project. It is suggested that you use 3 to 5 of each, the department standards and the course outcomes, but you can do more. There is also a digital portfolio checklist in the module so you can check and make sure that you have everything you need before you submit the final portfolio. As mentioned before, there will be a check-in halfway through each unit to ensure you are on track of finishing what is required. If you do not have things completed, you will be required to attend enrichment as scheduled by your instructor. The portfolio should show your mastery of the curriculum in this class. This means that you may have to rework things along the way. For example, this person has really great prep work. You can see they're showing their sketches, their reference photo, their resource artist, and then actually in process of what the pictures looked like that they were developing or that they were drawing. Here's the final photo. But what you should notice here is that while this person does have a reflection, they don't have any outcomes analyzed. So they did actually list the outcomes, but they didn't analyze how they used those outcomes in the work. They also do not have the Nicolet standards listed either. When you're in the digital portfolio introduction and you scroll down to the art outcomes, if you click on that link, what you'll notice when the document opens is that there are several outcomes in here. There's actually 12 of them that you'll be looking through as you're trying to complete your portfolio, with the exception of AP students. There's a few more for the AP students. What you'll be doing is you're actually going to take the substandards and you're going to copy and paste those into your website, and then you're going to analyze how you used that. For example, here you can see somebody's composition page of their website, and what you notice is that it's labeled as composition. They actually used their drawing as the background for the header, and then you can see their in progress drawing as well as the final version of the drawing that they did, and then they listed outcomes that they used. So here they listed the substandard of student understands and successfully utilizes the rule of thirds, and then they talked about why they used that or how they used that in the drawing that is up here. You have to be very specific. So for example, when you're talking about the rule of thirds, you would have to talk about how the butterfly and the flower are in the lower left quadrant instead of just directly in the middle of the page. The butterfly is kind of almost in the middle, but your eye kind of goes down to the left-hand side here because of the flower. So it's still pretty well designed in the rule of thirds. Looking at this same individual, if I go into Drawing and Design 1 and I select, for example, the perspective drawing unit, you can see again they're keeping that same theme throughout their portfolio. You can have whatever theme you want, but this person chose to put their image behind the header of whatever the unit was. Then again, you'll see their in process work, and then again you'll see a different substandard. For this one, it's the substandard or national standard of 6.2, and it's students understand course specific vocabulary and can write and speak about that with others. This person is analyzing what they're doing in this drawing with specific art terminology. So they have to prove that they've done that, and then the instructor is going to evaluate whether or not you've done that or how well you've done that. Similarly, if we're on that digital portfolio introduction page, you can see the art department standards. So if we click on that, this is another document where you're going to have to talk about how you used the specific art standards, whether it's learning to see or making a game plan, taking risks, experimentation. So here, if we look under an experiment, the thing that you're supposed to be analyzing is how you created work that involves using materials in different ways than what just any other student would have done. And the descriptions underneath here will actually help you figure out what you have to write for that. All of these things are actually going to be how you're showing your mastery of the skills that you've learned in this class. One of the last things that you're going to be doing is adding a biography about yourself in your portfolio to show who you are. Again, if you were going to show this to a potential employer, you would actually want to have some of that information in there about you. And it needs to be appropriate information so that, a potential employer wants to hire you. As we continue to discuss your portfolio, you can actually see that there's a Google Site creation video in this module. I'm just going to take a little bit of time to talk to you about how to create Google Sites. So if you go into a new tab, you can actually see that if you click on the waffle, it will actually give you some templates and also a blank document. Your area here may have no other links in it. Because I'm a teacher, I can actually see all the students that have sent me things previously for grading. So you may only be able to see the templates in the blank document, and that's okay. If your screen looks a little different, it's probably just because you have it on list view instead of icon view. One thing that I will mention is if you click on a blank document, it's totally fine. You can arrange your website however you would like. However, if you go into a template, perhaps the student portfolio might be something that you want to use instead. What's nice about the student portfolio version is other than having a description all about yourself and it can show different things about you, if you click on the left-hand navigation, you can actually see that they have their classwork here, what they're doing in different highlights in different classes. In addition to that, if you navigate over onto the right-hand side, you can see that you can insert text boxes, images, you can embed links to things. You can also go to Drive and you can actually import images. So if I click on my Drive, I actually went in here and I found the folder that this is in. But what you do need to be aware of is whatever orientation the picture is, that's what it's going to look like when you import it. So for example, if I pick this picture here of this wonderful still life drawing that this person did and I insert it somewhere, it's actually going to insert sideways. And this is what I was talking about, how you have to put it probably into a Google Doc, rotate it, take a screenshot, and then go back in to insert the picture that would be the correct orientation. So this one would be the correct orientation. If I click on this one, you can tell I've inserted something that is now the correct orientation. So you have to make sure that you have things presented in a professional manner. Here you can see a template that I've created for students that struggle. And what you'll notice about this is this actually has a specific class. So for example, this might be for drawing 1. And then you can see how I'd put an image of my final project here. I'd talk about the unit, my reflections of what that is. Here are my process images. Here are the outcomes and how I used the different outcomes. Here are the standards, how I used the different standards. And then you can actually see it goes through the next unit. So if you are organizing your work this way, you can also see this person has a home page or would have a home page with the student's name. I would not give your address. You can do personal email if you want to, but don't do your phone number. This protects you. Also, you should have a little bit of an information about you, and I do have some examples that you can look at, and again, this template that you can also use. In addition to having whatever the class is organized all on one page so that we can see what you've done, you could put competitions that you entered or any other artwork. So if I click on these different things, you'll actually see what a different person put in here, and you could change that, of course. This is just an example of what someone else did. If those things don't apply to you, you can actually click on the pages link over here, and you could actually go and delete different things as you were doing it. You could also list future plans. Those of you that are in painting and AP, you should be listing a resume of the different jobs you've had, different contests that you've won. So when I'm in my template page, you can see that this person has not only their home page, their class page, competitions they've entered, but they also have this category of other works. I know a lot of you have other artwork from other things, whether it's camp or just you've done it at home or you did it maybe in middle school or earlier. It would be lovely to see all the different things that you do. So this person has all these portraits and even this image of a bird and a flower that she drew, and I'm not sure if they're done with pastels, oil pastels, or colored pencil, but you can see this person's really interested in color. It's lovely to see what you guys do outside of class as well. So please try to include that. You should also take a look at the bottom underneath where it says insert. There's different ways you can arrange the pages. There's also different things that you can add, just so that I'm not looking at 100 portfolios that all look the same. Remember, when you're finished working on your portfolio each day, make sure to click on the Publish button. If you've already done this, you'll actually see where there's a currently published version and there's a draft version. Otherwise, the first time you publish, you'll probably be asked to name what you've done. So as I'm publishing the different changes that I've done here, you can see that I can also view the published site. The reason that it's important to publish and view the published site is that's what you're going to be handing in. Before I click on view published site, I'm actually going to click on the share to make sure that I've shared with my instructor, that anybody at Nicolet can view it. Then I'm going to say done. So you're going to have access to your portfolio right away, but you will have to add your instructor to the sharing so that your instructor can see what you've done. Then you should actually go to view published site, and you're going to click on the URL, and you want to make sure that you double click on it so that you have the entire URL. Then you're going to press Control and C. That is going to copy it. So here you can see I'm going to copy that, and that is what you would actually be handing in. In order to submit work, you would normally go in the recent announcements on the home page, because there should be a link in that announcement for you to hand things in. But because it's not that day right now, I'm actually going to go into the modules and I'm going to show you how to submit what you have published. So I'm just going to go into the composition submission. That's going to be the first one that you're going to be doing. And what you'll see is you'll see a start assignment button. But before we press that, again, on this submission page are all the requirements of what you need to have in the portfolio website that you turn in for this specific unit. Every unit is going to have some description like this. So you would click on Submit Assignment. When you do that, it actually kicks you down into the middle of the page, and it's asking you for a URL. So that is what you just copied over here. And then you're going to paste that URL into the box where it's asking for it, and you're going to say Submit Assignment. If you do that before it's due, again, you're going to get that confetti. That's what you want to be seeing. If you end up having to hand it in a little late, it's not a huge deal as long as it's in that window, that 1 week window that you get to submit things. If it needs to be after that, you do need to discuss with your instructor. They will probably have you email the URL to them if they accept it. You may be asked to complete a portfolio review as you're watching this video. If that's the case, you would go into the modules, you'll scroll down to where the digital portfolio is, and you'll click on the portfolio review. It may also be in the announcement, so you can probably click on it from the announcement as well. Inside that portfolio review, what you'll see is there's a link that you're going to click on. That's actually the document you're going to hand in. So up here it asks you to start the assignment. You're going to be handing in this link that's right here, but that link comes to a document like this. You will have to make a copy of it, and you are going to paste the portfolio that you're reviewing. So for example, you would list whatever number portfolio this is up here, and then you would put your name on this document. Then you're going to actually look at whether or not all of the units were present. Are there thumbnail sketches? Was there a reference image? Were there at least 3 process photos? Did they include a final version of the image that they drew or painted? Then it also is asking you whether or not the images are in the correct orientation and whether or not they're straight and not in perspective. Did this person put the appropriate reflections in? And then there's actually a checklist of different things that you might need for the class, as well as vocabulary terms. Were the art outcomes and standards included? And then do they have evidence of how they used the strong work Venn diagram? It's also asking you if it was aesthetically pleasing and easy to navigate. So this is just going to be your determination of whether or not that student did it, and you are going to get a feel for if it's more than half of these answers would be yes. Obviously, that would probably be a C, B, or an A range, depending on what you thought about that. If there's a lot of no's, it's probably a lower grade than that. So you need to actually describe why you're evaluating that grade, and please don't be worried the person is not going to see how you're evaluating them. This is just for you to see and evaluate how well someone else created their portfolio so that you really do the best on yours. Once you've completed that portfolio review and you've actually looked at the outcomes and standards that are linked right here, you can see that those are there available to you so that you can see if the person actually did those things. I would recommend opening these and having them as separate tabs open so that as you're looking at somebody's portfolio, you can go back here and look and see, did they actually include the different standards? Once you've done all of that and you know that you're ready to hand the peer review here in, you would actually click on the sample portfolio review. You do start assignment. Again, you're going to hand in that website URL and submit, and you'll hopefully get the confetti if you've done that today right away. And again, part of the reason that we're doing all of this now and we're starting to create your portfolio now is so that you have less stress along the way. Remember, you're completing this now so that you take the development of your website seriously and 1 unit at a time. This will also help you earn the highest grade possible. Your teacher is here to help you. Remember to ask questions along the way and resubmit work that has not earned as much credit as you would like. The end of the semester or year is the final deadline, so it's important for you to manage your time wisely. Best wishes to you all.